Hi, welcome everyone. I've seen the Audi RS6 Generation C-Weight twice in my life, meaning I've driven and tested it both times. They were on this little bridge in Skawinski Park. The first time, it was a version freshly picked up from the dealership, but today it's a version that will give us a more colorful experience. A story about what it's like over a longer distance. What will it tell you about? Wojtek? Let's begin.
Hi, I'm Wojtek from Krakow, and like Zakar OFF said, I came here with the RS. I've had the car for 3 years now. It's a 2002 model and I've driven 38,000 kilometers with it. The story with the car is that I wanted to buy a car that would simply be a compromise between practicality and a sports car. Naturally, RS6 was the obvious choice. When the pandemic was ending, there was a big problem with these cars because in general you could order them for production, but the waiting time was a year, maybe a year and a half. And here I managed to buy this particular unit at one of the Polish dealerships. This color was the only right choice for me. At that time, it was a demo car with a mileage of 1,000 kilometers, and since it was available right away, I just took it and bought it. As for the car's configuration, we have Ipanema brown metallic paint combined with larger wheels, 22 inches. Why is this important? The car was also equipped with ceramic brakes, which were part of the RS dynamic package, meaning the package that includes these ceramic brakes, rear axle steering or a sport rear differential. When it comes to the appearance of the car, the key thing for me was choosing these headlights, because some of these cars didn't have them. And then there are these small teardrops. These are full matrix LEDs. They look cool and provide excellent light. You can see these large extensions that begin around here, right? On these fenders, especially at the rear, you can identify the RS6 by its large tips on both sides. In this setup, it's a sports exhaust that functions much like the regular ones, so the sound is very similar. It costs a few thousand zlotys extra. Is it worth it? I don't know. Straight from the factory, it looks so good that basically it's hard to do anything here or change anything. My only modification was paint protection film on the whole car as protection under the Audi hood. We have a V8 600 horsepower and 800 Newton meters. According to the manufacturer's data, it accelerates to 100 in about 3.6 seconds. And I have to say that's actually true, or maybe it is. And it's even a bit better when it comes to the intervals recommended by the manufacturer here. When it comes to changing the oil or other consumable parts, I'd say the intervals are pretty funny because generally Audi recommends changing the oil, at least according to the computer. After 30,000 kilometers or after 2 years, everything counts toward the carbon footprint. So fewer services means fewer consumable materials, which means a smaller carbon footprint. So even though this car probably should have a service every 10 or 15,000 kilometers, at least an oil change, the manufacturer doesn't recommend it that often. I change it every 10,000. Dealership service costs around 2,000 zlotys. Time as well. I had the pleasure of doing a service, let's say after 2 years. And here the cost is also at the level of several thousand zlotys, so these are quite reasonable amounts. Nothing happened during those 3 years. The only minor problem that hasn't been solved is some knocking somewhere in the steering column. It's probably some plastic. Unfortunately, Audi can't deal with it. I've gotten used to it and spoken with other RS6 and RSQ8 owners. They have the same issue. It's not bothersome, but it is noisy. Fuel consumption in this car is a different story because on the road, where at least my car is mainly used, it's reasonable. 10, 11 liters. But in the city it's much worse because on short distances, let's say 3 to 5 kilometers, the car can burn even 25 liters. Indeed, we have something to carry here because it's about 2.3 tons. However, I know that the competition can do better. The car's configuration is Valcona brown leather upholstery. It was quite lucky to get this upholstery together with this color because they match each other well. We have 3 screens here that, let's say, do their job. But the downside is that when they're turned off, you can see all the fingerprints on them.
Dear viewers, the partner of this episode is Wehizpel, which is a car platform where over 10,000 new and used cars are available. The platform cooperates with dealers of all brands, from the popular ones to the most expensive. And with the code ZAHAROFF, you'll get a discount on Wehiz. .pl an additional 1% discount, which means, for example, in the case of a car worth 200,000, it will be 2,000 zlotys extra discount on top of the discounts visible on the WeHis.pl website. You choose a car, calculate the installment, get a financial decision, and sign the contract 100% online, or if you prefer a traditional conversation, of course, you can also do it with an advisor. Check the description where you'll find a link to thousands of cars that you can lease.
This is quite a rich configuration, maybe not fully loaded, but quite well equipped, because we basically have all the essential extras and all the assistance here. It even has a parking heater, and at that time the only extras you could add were additional speakers. Here Bang & Olufsen satellite speakers were installed, as well as a night vision system for night driving. When it comes to practical features, we basically only have this cup holder for 2 cups, the armrest, and here a compartment for a bottle. And to be honest, I think this is probably the biggest downside of this car, because on longer trips there's just nowhere to put your things. If we fill these cup holders with coins or keys, then we have nowhere to put a cup. On the other hand, if you want to put your phone down, there's just nowhere to do it. Nowhere. I have to admit, the materials used inside are high quality. I had a comparison here to other brands like Porsche or Mercedes, and honestly, the material itself is really good. And after 40,000 kilometers, you can see slight creases on the seats. However, when it comes to the plastics, leather, or even this carbon here, nothing really creaks. It's honestly pretty good quality. I only had a minor incident during a longer trip in strong sunlight in Croatia. At that time, the plastics actually started creaking quite a lot, somewhere around the head-up display area. However, for some reason, it fixed itself later without any service intervention. The only drawback I mentioned earlier is some cracking noises coming from somewhere around the steering column or maybe the door here. Unfortunately, Audi couldn't fix this. We tried to address the issue 3 times, but it still hasn't been resolved. The car's design and multimedia system are from 2018-2019, so they're consistent. Everything works very well and smoothly, but it has to be said clearly that newer models already have more advanced systems that work more reliably, faster and better.
All right.
Oh, sir, you need to get in position.
It's not bad with the steering wheel. I fit above my head fine. There's not much extra space, but there's still room, so the front is fine. Let's take a look in the back, and this is what it looks like in the back. Sitting behind myself, I don't even touch the driver's seat, and the driver's seat is big and thick, so it takes up a lot of space too. Nevertheless, I'm sitting here, look, with quite a bit of headroom. I have my own second sunroof. There's not a lot of space left, but I don't have to slouch. The armrest is spacious but not super comfortable, and that's because there's a compartment underneath. We also have... How does this open? Oh, there you go. We also have cup holders, so this isn't just an ordinary armrest with 2 holes. Everything works and opens properly, and there's a large center tunnel. Generally, this is a 5-seater car, but I wouldn't want to be that 5th person in front of you.
A major advantage of this car is the trunk. In my particular case, I carry a lot of sports equipment, and it was kind of a requirement for the trunk to be large and even. And here we have about 600 liters, I think. A nice feature is this electrically folding cover. It just moves automatically when you close the trunk. Additionally, we have mounting rails here, and if I remember correctly, there should be clips here that you can use to attach a net or other storage solutions. Here we have the option to fold the backrests from the inside, and we also have a 12-volt socket. I also see a small pocket for little items.
So tell me, what did you have in your garage before you decided on the RS? There must be a story behind it.
Yeah, you know, I didn't really have a big car collection, but I did have, let's say, a smaller Mercedes AMG, and I also happened to have a Porsche. I also had, among my first faster cars, a Golf R and a Grand Touring injection, so you could say I was kind of growing into this car.
It didn't happen suddenly, it was gradual, step by step. But interestingly, you said you switched to the RS from the 911, which seems like it should be at the top of that hierarchy, and you did exactly the opposite. No.
That's true. The trunk is the first thing. Although I'll be honest, Porsche makes a special suitcase that fits in the front and you can pack for 2 people in it. Let's say I even tried, you can fit a snowboard inside, but only a short one though. I won't hide that I think I kind of missed those expectations a bit, because honestly, Porsche is a great car. It's fantastic to drive. You really can use it every day, but still, well, obviously it doesn't combine that practicality like the RS6 does with those performance figures, not as well, right? Here we have this big body. It's almost like driving a yacht. I don't know if I mentioned that here. There's air suspension, which is basically standard, and there's an extra charge for this dynamic chassis control, that's what it's called. This active, let's say sporty one. I remember they were trying to convince me to get the active suspension back then, but I was more interested in comfort. And it actually works great, but as you probably know, it tends to lean a bit in corners. You can feel the weight of the car.
And at this point, we've reached the most important conclusion I drew from my first encounter with the RS6. Driving this car through the city, not rushing and not concerned about its horsepower. It can take you from point A to point B so smoothly that you barely notice.
It's so comfortable.
Very convenient for daily driving.
That's true.
It's quite unique because all the other cars, well, in Jimitsu 11, even if you set it to Super Soft Comfort Plus, you still feel like you're driving in Jimitsu 11.
Above all, it provokes you. Jimitsu 11 kind of provokes you to push it. You know, the engine sound is much more audible than in the DPS.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. So here you also get those extra acoustic impressions. Plus, this engine has to rev up a bit more to drive here. As you probably know, it pulls pretty hard right from the bottom. Here, one turbocharger activates at around 1,000 revolutions per minute, so you don't feel like you need to push this car for it to go. You can just drive it easily.
It's actually light right from the bottom. It's a subtle ratio of how much power you get when you press the gas pedal to how much it pushes you into the seat, and I just came up with this ratio now.
A new math formula.
But generally it's different in every car, and in this one, as soon as you touch it, as soon as you even think about accelerating, you feel this immediate, quick response.
I also, in a way, when choosing this car, I was influenced by how it would behave on the highway. I mainly use this car for long trips about 95% of the time. And I have to tell you, while the 0 to 100 acceleration is definitely impressive, at least on paper, here the coolest thing is the 100 to 200 acceleration. When you need to react quickly on the highway or elsewhere, you have enough power here. Fairness.
Let's go, this dynamic mode, immediately higher revs.
It's also lowered here.
I think the road got worse.
You also have 2 RS modes accessible from the steering wheel here, which is different from BMW. For example, here there's this small button, which is actually sometimes hard to notice, you know, because it's hidden.
I didn't remember this button.
It's pretty hard to notice on the screen, to be honest, which mode you're driving in.
Yeah, this is RS mode. Also in the Golf R, the R on the steering wheel is blue.
Yeah.
It really stands out, and here it's like answer the phone or RS. All right, so now we'll do the moose test, because this is an empty and wide street, you don't have to do that. This is the 50th hour, so let's imagine we're driving completely by the book in the city, and suddenly someone or something runs out onto the road in front of us. Very well done, but exactly what you mentioned just happened. The mass. Theoretically, with the suspension in comfort mode, I'm doing this on purpose now. Even in comfort mode, it should handle it easily.
Easily?
But honestly, to tell you the truth, based on my feelings, I didn't get the impression that it's heavy, but the tires gave it away. They were squealing to the left, squealing to the right. They had a lot of work to do, and that was weak.
It tossed me around a bit here, but you still managed to get back on track pretty well. Actually, you did it instantly.
A moose came onto the road there, and we managed to go around it without any problem. And that was in comfort mode, not even in sport mode. I suppose it could only have been better.
When I drove a Porsche, I always had the feeling that I was going through a turn, let's say, on the highway, kind of sideways. Not really straight, but here it's actually not that bad. About the rear wheel steering, yes, and in the underground garage, well, you maneuver as if you were driving a car from a smaller class, right? From the outside, the Moose test looks fine, as if the car didn't really skid. It just followed the path it was given. So you set the course and it passed.
Passed? Absolutely. And how do you rate the 8? The 8 overall? Good morning.
The joy of reaching 100, which you did here. I would say I expected it because I heard that with these engines specifically, there's, let's say, a problem that they tend to overheat a bit. And I know a lot of people decide to install a downpipe to lower the temperature somewhere around the turbines in the intake, and then the results are supposedly more stable. Man, I didn't really want to change anything here because, first of all, the warranty, and second, I didn't really care for the car to, let's say, sound even louder.
You never used it, so why do you need to shave off those tenths of a second? For sport?
Not exactly a third reason. However, there were a few people who tried to convince me to change the exhaust, the downpipe. I've heard those cars, and honestly, you can still get a lot more out of them when it comes to sound, but damn.
The deep bass, and it's so civilized.
Listen, even when
with those
at low revs, it sounds good and isn't tiring on long trips. For now, there's no reason to replace this car. And even if there was, would it really be such a huge difference? Would it really be worth it, let's say, to sell this car and buy something new?
I agree with you. Even if something new comes out and impresses with its performance, or rather not so much with its performance, but with a herd of horsepower, it's all created with the help of electric motors, which in itself I'm not saying is worse, but it's completely different. And here, after all, the old goods school has only one of its last representatives in the form of a car like this. How does it stand price-wise now? Because the biggest drop in value is probably already behind this car. And how much do cars like this go for? Maybe.
Let's begin with its initial price. As the catalog shows, this car cost about 900,000 zlotys in 2022. Of course, since it was, let's say, a demo car, it was also appropriately cheaper. You have to admit that Audi actually gives pretty good discounts, often double-digit ones on such cars, so you can buy them cheaper. However, as you mentioned, the key drop in value had already happened. And at this moment, you can buy this car, let's say, in this configuration with similar mileage, for around 500,000 zlotys.
It's not a small amount, but I also think that this car is simply worth that money, especially when looking at your particular example.
Which I can't disagree with.
He was looking for a place where you could stop without scaring anyone. Over there, yes, and to do a handover about...
Please.
We'd like to hear it, please.
Please.
Please. And here with a heart attack. I think we will be isolated from the rest of the world. We'll politely park in the parking lot and show how it sounds. Thank you very much for presenting the car at all. We spent a long time arranging this, but it was worth it the moment we saw the photo of the car. I saw that we had to record the rest someday, so I'm glad we managed to do it.
Thanks. We've been planning this for around 10 months, so we finally did it. Nice.
As it often happens.
So it was a real pleasure for me.
I managed to do it as well. Thank you all for watching this video. Remember to subscribe and see you in the next ones.
Thanks. Without the limiter, it would have been better.
It sounds like a really serious player who's aware of his strength, but does it with class, doesn't make a lot of noise. But we know there's power behind it.